Shalom Chaverim. It's Wednesday night. It's Wednesday night. It's 8 o'clock. And here in the nation's capital, summer. It was in the 80s. I don't know if it actually hit 90 or not, but it was hot and humid. I guess spring is over and we're going into the summer. For those of you watching and those of you listening, I'm continuing with our values. And we're up to value 7. And I've entitled this series, Make America Good Again. Not great, but good. And it's a challenge to those of you out there to look at your own faith, your own religion, your own practices, whether it's an organized religion or not. Look at what you believe in, what your values are. And we've been looking at the 3 Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and Hinduism and Buddhism. Wouldn't be practical to take every religion in the known universe and compare these values. However, I would put it out there that you would be hard-pressed to find any organized or disorganized religion that wouldn't have the same values as our first 6. I think that they're common to being human. They're common to a society, a group of people. That's why I think they're of value. The values that I've been examining are not based on ritual. They're not based on what you eat. They're not based on which direction you face or which direction you don't face, or if you do this or do that, or do whatever you may do with your hands, your eyes, your feet. Those are rituals that belong to specific cultures. And cultures then become religions, and then they don't have borders, however you want to look at it. But basically, they're cultural because they started someplace. And we often have to change or modify religions to make them fit in with a different culture, a different climate, if you will. For what works in the Sahara won't work north of the Arctic Circle, won't work in the Pacific Northwest, won't work in New England. That's why I'm focusing on values, because values transcend climate. Values transcend what a local group of people do. So let's keep in mind that customs, religious, and ceremonies are to remind us of our values. And I really would like all of us to prove that Hamlet was wrong. Hamlet said, our religion, our values, are more honored in the breach than in the observance. Don't post the 10 Commandments, live the 10 Commandments. Don't tell me how I should follow this prophet or that prophet. You become the lighthouse. You teach by example, the way you speak, the way you act towards other people. And those are the values that we've been working on. And tonight, we're up to value 7. Acts of kindness and compassion. In Judaism, it's chesed, loving kindness. Christianity, agape, again expressed through kindness and compassion. In Islam, Rahmah, compassion, a key attribute of God. Hinduism, Daya, compassion, empathy, Karuna. In Buddhism, loving kindness, compassion. So, there I've given you the summary of what we're going to be looking at this evening. Someone just asked, remember, I glanced down at the questions while I'm going through my notes. What is the fate of Jesus in the afterlife? The spirit returns to God who gave it, and we're all united with the one in the end. And you'll look at different religions, different denominations, and you'll see variations on the theme about what happens after. Speaking from Judaism, the soul returns, the spirit returns to God who gave it. I don't know what that means. We'll all find out one day. Judaism wants us to focus on the here and now, emphasize how we act towards each other. Acts of loving kindness are greater than charity. Judaism teaches visiting the sick, feeding the hungry, consoling the bereaved. And Judaism also, what do you think about the Talmud? The Talmud is rabbinic discussion of the Mishnah. It's not law. Remember that we don't have police in Judaism. We call it Jewish law, but the correct word is halakha, which means the way or the path to find wholeness, completeness, and to unite with the one. That's the goal. And so the Talmud has lots of rabbinic discussion. It doesn't give an answer. It gives a majority opinion, a minority opinion, and it gives a lot of extraneous opinions. And just like taking notes at school, it gives a lot of people's opinions that are just not really Jewish or supported in Judaism, but someone put them in the notes. The prophet Micah. What does the Lord your God require of you? To do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. The world stands on three things, Chaverim: on Torah, on prayer, worship, and on acts of loving kindness. And so, throughout Hebrew scripture, that's just a sampling of some of the quotes that you'll find. Now, Christianity calls Hebrew scripture Old Testament, doesn't dismiss it. So the teachings of the prophets, the teaching from Leviticus and Exodus apply in Christianity as well. And so New Testament expands. Agape. Selfless care, compassion, and love. Possibly a central commandment in Christianity. Acts of kindness and mercy are expressions of this love. And I keep bringing back that which I was taught in my Catholic education. Live Jesus. Don't talk about it. Don't say it. Live Jesus. And the Sermon on the Mount. There is the Christian paradigm. It doesn't talk about being Roman Catholic or Episcopal or Presbyterian. There's no denomination in the Sermon on the Mount. And that's where agape comes from. This idea of love your neighbor, love your enemy. Matthew, whatever you do for one of the least among you, you did for me. That's Jesus speaking. Think of that. Whatever you do for the least among you. And if you look at our politicians, I'm having a really hard time because they're going after the least among us. And the teaching is, live Jesus. Luke, be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. People are asking for me to invite them as a guest. I'll say the same thing every week. Email rabbiblock@hotmail.com and you'll co-host with me. You'll notice I'm alone tonight. Not a single person who asked to be invited followed up and said to me, I want to co-host with you. Not yet. No one has yet. The epistle to the people in Galatia. Kindness is a fruit of the Spirit. Clothe yourselves with compassion and kindness. What do you think about? In Luke, St. Luke points out the parable of the Good Samaritan. Compassion for those in need who are outsiders. And again, over and over again, remember that you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You're to treat the stranger as the homeborn. I am just reading and repeating the teachings from the three Abrahamic religions. So far, I haven't made anything up. I haven't said anything. And I've even given you the passages so you can look them up yourself. In 1 Corinthians, love. And we hear the passage very often at weddings. So, in Christianity, like Judaism, kindness and compassion are active expressions of divine love and are essential to discipleship and salvation in Christianity. I don't hate my Muslim brothers and they're Judaism and Islam. Politicians on both Israel and among the Arab nations have used religion and beliefs to turn people against each other. If you go to my YouTube channel, The Rabbi and I, there are several episodes, if you will, talking about the Quran, talking about Judaism, and how we are being led and listening to politicians who are saying things for their own aggrandizement, for their own power. So let's look at Islam. Rahman, key attribute of God. Emulate God's compassion. Acts of kindness and charity, highly meritorious. The word Rahman, Rahmah, Rahim, means the most merciful one. I have not done a tally of the multiple names that Islam uses for Allah, like Judaism. However, what's in common is in Judaism, the names for God, and in Islam, the names for God are the attributes. They're not names, like naming something. We want to call the merciful one, the compassionate one, the forgiving one, the Father. All of these are names we use for God when we want to emphasize an attribute. In Surah 21, we have not sent you Muhammad, but as a mercy to the world. Making it without the negative, Muhammad was sent to pronounce mercy to the world. Freeing a slave, feeding on the day of hunger, Surah 90. Surah 16, Allah commands justice, doing good and giving to relatives. And the Hadith. We can follow in the Hadith, Allah is kind and loves kindness in all manners. What we're watching now in the Middle East is a corruption of both Judaism and Islam's best teachings. They're being used by some individuals who claim to be observant or religious for political ends. They're not the ends of Muhammad, of Moses, and let's say Judaism and Islam. Neither one approves of what's going on in Gaza. Neither one approves what's going on in Darfur. North Africa. If you start following what's being done to the women and children, beyond belief. And much of it is done by organizations that exist to help. Much is being done by religious people. Look at what's happened in the United States with abuse of young men by Roman Catholic priests. The church is still addressing it. The church is trying to clean it up. They're doing all kinds of things. But that doesn't mean that the Roman Catholic Church is bad. It doesn't mean that the Roman Catholic Church supports it. Their politicians have been covering it up. Some of their people have been not doing what's necessary. That's politics, Habibi. That's politics. And we want to be careful not to get sucked in to the political. Someone asked me if I'm related to Joshua Block. Not that I know of, but that doesn't mean we're not invited. Yeah, someone just put that the Talmud is discussions of the rabbis. It's not the Torah, it's discussions of the oral law, the Mishnah. And it's also discussion of customs and ceremonies, traditions and stories. It's a great resource. It's a great resource. And I believe in two states that recognize the right of each state to exist. I recognize that the state of Israel is going to be around and needs to be recognized. I think we should have a Palestine that recognizes the right of Israel to exist and Israel to recognize the right of Palestine to exist. I don't know if I'm going to live to see that ever come to be. Now, I've been talking about the three Abrahamic religions. Now, let's go further east. Buddhism, Karuna, is the essence, it's essential for spiritual growth. It's alleviating suffering. If the Buddha taught that if we are to grow spiritually, then one of the ways is to alleviate suffering. And we do this by cultivating kindness and empathy. We don't do it by taking away people's rights, by not taking care of the widow, by not taking care of the orphan, by not taking care of the veteran. The goal is for us to help each other. Now, that doesn't mean that the people being helped shouldn't do something. We're not talking in Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Our three Abrahamic religions all support the idea that no matter how poor you are, you should still give tzedakah. You should still give something to charity. It may be in kind, it may be work, maybe not money, but make no mistake, none of the Abrahamic religions support what I would call a free lunch or doing nothing. It's not dignified. That doesn't help people. Rather, all three Abrahamic religions support the idea of providing jobs so people can earn a living, of giving discounts when people can't afford the full amount. But none of the religions support the idea of, we call it a handout, of getting something for nothing. Everyone needs to contribute according to their ability to contribute. And this is really consistent with the teachings of the Buddha. Because everyone can alleviate suffering, even when you're suffering. Just because you're suffering doesn't mean you can't help someone else. May all beings be happy. May all beings be without disease. Now, how do we get rid of disease? Through research, putting money into medicine, into science. The Buddha taught, overcome your anger with love, your wickedness with goodness. Isn't that what Jesus taught? Isn't that a basic Jewish teaching? Isn't that what Muhammad said? Boundless, loving kindness. So, in Buddhism, compassion is both the path and the goal. And remember, we're not talking about a goal that can be reached. That's one of the things as Americans we kind of get used to, this idea that, well, if something's a goal, if I keep doing it, I'm going to get there. And it's not a moving goal either. We're constantly striving for compassion, agape. And as a friend of mine likes to say, some days you're the windshield and some days you're the bug. That doesn't mean we give up the path, we give up the goal. Just because we can point to the excesses and the stupidity of the Knesset the Israeli government in what's going on in Gaza, just as we can point that out, doesn't mean the country shouldn't exist. It doesn't mean we should kill people who are Jewish. It doesn't mean we should kill people that are Muslim. There's no. The bad behavior, the bad decisions of some politicians doesn't justify us doing these horrendous things. Do you think burning some people alive in Colorado is going to create a Palestine? If you do, please get in touch with me. We need to do some talking. If you think killing a young couple who is about to be married is going to create the country called Palestine, it hasn't and it won't. If we're going to create, we have to follow the values of each of our religions. Christian, Buddhist, Hindu. Hinduism. Compassion. And whether the word is in Sanskrit, in Hebrew, in Arabic, we find the same translation. It's compassion, which means treating all beings with kindness and empathy, because all life is interconnected. We read about the butterfly effect, and that's just another Hindu Buddhist concept that everything's interconnected. It's what the Jewish mystics taught. It's what Jesus taught. It's why Muhammad became the prophet he became, to teach that how we treat each other will affect the whole cycle, the whole sequence of things. Back to Hinduism. Kindness towards all living beings. No ill will towards any being. Be kind and compassionate. And Hinduism teaches that compassion is the root of religion. And we've seen that already in our three Abrahamic religions and in Buddhism, now in Hinduism. And it is true. We're always talking about compassion. And if we look at the history, when we gave up on compassion, when we didn't follow it, things fell apart, society fell apart, and it wasn't good for anybody. And it's a disservice to look at people who have faith and belief that's not in any organized religion in a book, because I have not run into anyone and followed what they claim to teach that it wasn't good. The individuals may not be following their own teachings, but when I've researched, when someone tells me I'm not one of the organizers, I am a, well, I research it, I talk to them, I ask them, and I find 7 values, just like I've been talking about. Hinduism, compassion towards all beings is the highest dharma. Now, let's add for Hinduism, we're not talking just about human beings. It's all living creatures, everything that lives. Because in Hinduism and Buddhism, the idea is everything is interconnected. And because everything is interconnected, how I treat my meal, it could be meat, it could be a tomato. In Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, there's a blessing. The reason we bless food is not about God. No, it's not. The reason we bless is to acknowledge I'm not the sum total of the universe. If I'm going to eat tomatoes, a tomato was living, was a plant. I'm eating a living plant. If I have a hamburger, I'm eating what was living meat, an animal. And so I recite the blessing to tell myself, thank you. Now, Am I thanking God? Am I thanking Allah? Am I thanking a higher power? Fill in the blanks. In the end, it creates humility. I recognize that I didn't grow that tomato. I'm not the sum total of the universe. And if I pollute the land, pollute the air, and destroy, we won't have any tomatoes. We won't have any lamb chops. The blessing, now bread is the staff of life. Hamotzi lecha min haaretz. Bring forth bread from the earth. To Buddhist teaching, to Hindu teaching. It's a cycle. Everything is interconnected. And that's something I want all of us to walk away with, is everything's interconnected. The butterfly effect. And somehow we lose sight of the fact that if we treat each other unkindly, if we don't take care of the children, the widow, the orphan, the veteran, and as I talked last week, or maybe it's next week, seniors. That's also in all our religious teachings. Respect for seniors, for people who have lived longer and seen more. All 5 of our religions teach us respect for those who have what we might label as a disability, but I'm not sure I like the word disability. Rather, we all have something. Osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. Actually, they're both in both hands. Not like that. I had cataract surgery. I have plastic lenses. Sight, hearing. And all our religions teach us to have compassion and to take care of. Someone just said you follow the Talmud. You can't follow. The Talmud is too extensive, has too much discussion, too much material. It helps us understand the 613 commandments and the thousands of oral laws on the path. And that's the goal of the Talmud, to learn. That's the goal of the rabbi, to teach and then get out of the way so you can unite with the one. I'm not to arrest people. I'm not to punish people. I'm not to tell you you're guilty. I'm not to tell you you're wrong. No. That's an imam. That's not their job either. Our job is to teach. Now, some of the churches have sacraments, which we don't have in Judaism. However, that doesn't change the fact that a priest is a teacher. And he does the 7 sacraments. And in Judaism, Islam, we have no sacraments, so we just end up as the teaching part. However, remember the sacraments and the rituals are to remind us of our obligations. Well, our 30 minutes are coming close to an end, and it's time for a word from our sponsor. Wednesday nights are brought to you by my book, How to Be Jewish in 30 Seconds. I have trouble with the lighting here. How to Be Jewish in 30 Seconds, available at Barnes & Noble online, Amazon online. Your local bookstore can order it for you. You can order it directly. I don't sell them. The cartoons are worth the price of the book alone. Joe's stuff is really excellent. And once we sell enough books, this is what we're going to do. This is Joe and myself in the studio we're going to have. So please, How to Be Jewish in 30 Seconds. And anyone that wants to co-host with me next Wednesday night, you'll meet in my Zoom room. We'll decide our topic. We'll decide how we interact with each other. And what do you feel about Muhammad? Was a prophet and a teacher. And Muhammad's goal was the way or the path. Not being Muslim, but the path in Judaism is almost identical to the path in Islam. There are cultural differences, but as we're seeing, there aren't value differences. Laila Tov, everyone. Good night. Thank you for joining me and thank you.